Anything else?
Hey everybody, this is Drew from the Watchers. This is an episode of Sasquatchers here tonight. We have some very fun guests that we're going to talk to that we have spoken with on their show, and now we get to invite them onto ours, and we're going to let them introduce themselves after the intro.
Oh, yeah.
Woo!
Drew and John on the airwaves, seeking mysteries that can't be explained. Sasquatchers chasing shadows in the night. In the realm of the paranormal they ignite. Sasquatchers podcast pioneers, unveiling the unknown with curious ears. From specters to Bigfoot they dig deep. Sasquatchers on a quest that's unique.
That's right. This is Sasquatchers, the only paranormal podcast with
up.
a skanking Sasquatch.
Now, wait a minute. It's never does not break my eardrums.
And yeah, if your eardrums are still with us, open them up. We have the Spooky Japan podcast, Amanda and Irene with us here today. So let's kick it over to them and let them introduce themselves and talk about their show a bit.
Hey, well, I'm Amanda. That's my partner, Irene, over there. I'm in Nagasaki, Japan, which is more the bottom of the island. It's more countryside compared to Irene, who's up there in Tokyo. So she's the exact opposite, where Tokyo is obviously one of the biggest cities. So that's why we always say on our podcast, you'll hear us say my side of Japan versus hers, because it's almost completely different there. But yes, we started Spooky Japan podcast because there's not really any podcasts in Japan, let alone I don't even think I've seen many in Asia. We've looked. We've looked to try and see if we can connect with others. There's not anything currently going. There might have been some that ended years ago, but nothing current. So we're just like, you know what? We're in Japan. We love Paranormal Japan. Let's talk about Paranormal Japan. That also led to talking about life and culture in Japan, just because we've had so many people ask us about it. Then feel bad because it's not completely about paranormal. I'm like, we don't care. You're curious. Ask us. I mean, we'd rather have you ask us because we realize it's researching Japan and living and seeing everything is completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the spookiest thing that I've learned about Japan is the cost and price of peanut butter, as we learned when we were on your show months back.
For some odd reason, you'll never crave a peanut butter jelly sandwich more than knowing how much that sandwich is going to be.
I feel like we need to missionary drop peanut butter into the country like they do with Bibles, but we're gonna do it with peanut butter.
Irene would be out there. She usually doesn't leave her house, but she'd be out there waiting with bags for the peanut butter. She does not care the price of peanut butter. She always has peanut butter. She's like, I don't care. I love my peanut butter too much.
That's how I am with
Irene. Do you have peanut butter on hand right now?
Yeah, I do. It's
great.
Right behind me. It's in my fridge.
What's weird? Who puts peanut butter in the fridge?
Well, we pretty much have to here with how humid it is. I was telling them earlier, Irene, that you have to have a dehumidifier on like every day because it's so humid here. It's always wet if you don't.
Yeah, if you don't have it in the fridge, it'll go rancid the next day.
We just got to eat it in a day. It's peanut butter.
I'm not going back to the embassy store to get another jar of peanut butter.
Well, I told you we're gonna drop it in. I'm gonna fly planes over.
I'm waiting, okay?
Oh, she'd eat it.
Buying peanut butter.
$1 a day if you did that.
You're telling me that 7-Eleven in Japan doesn't have peanut butter?
No.
No.
They have
I've never seen
everything
it.
else.
No.
Lawson's doesn't have peanut butter in Japan. That's crazy.
No.
They need to. They could. I mean, like I know, like peanut butter isn't indigenous of Japan, but there's money to be made in
Yeah,
Japanese
it's
peanut
an
butter.
introduced product, so you can't even get Mr. Clean in the regular store. You can't even get what would you call it, Tide in the regular store. You'd have to go to either sometimes you go to Costco or you have to go to the embassy store in Tokyo, which is in a very expensive area. And a lot of people who have a lot of money, the French embassy is there, the American embassy is there, the Canadian embassy is there. It's like they have this little store that you go to, and you better be packing with a lot of money in order to go shopping there, because you can't buy anything under $100.
Well, you heard it from Irene. Go to the embassy store while you're packing.
Mm,
We have a different term for packing here in the States.
I know, I know, but you see, we have a gun law here, so we can't be packing here.
Yeah.
You just don't follow the law. A lot of people here don't. So, anyways, I digress.
Mm.
Isn't the crime rate like super low in Japan?
Yeah.
It's super low.
That's because I'm not there.
We had family visit us over here, and they accidentally left their wallet with cash, a bunch of cash on the subway, and they got it back. And they assumed all the money would be missing. Because in America, you either wouldn't get the wallet back or it'd be empty of the money.
Yeah.
All the money was there. Like, no one touched it.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, when I come over to Japan, we'll see the crime rate. Give me about
What,
6
you gonna
months.
do something?
It'll skyrocket, and he'll keep getting away with it because he'll bribe the police with peanut butter.
That's the best.
I live in a really kind of like expensive area, so we have big cars, and we have one. My neighbor has a Benz Jeep in his driveway.
Did you steal it?
Nobody steals anything in this cul-de-sac that we live in.
I don't know what it must be, just Japanese culture, but like you guys are seeing stealing. I mean, I don't.
Nah, we don't steal anything.
Yeah, I think everyone here is raised with more respect than.
Yeah.
That's what everybody.
Well, I mean,
needs,
I'll
some
bring the
respect.
I'll bring the disrespect to Japan. I'm not against that.
A lot of Americans visiting over here actually do, and that's why I think they're starting to hate Americans more over here. And I tell people, it's like, for some odd reason, when people visit Japan because they're in another country, they assume I can do whatever I want. It's not going to get back to my family or my job or anyone back home.
Yeah.
And then you see them in a viral video doing something stupid.
Yeah.
And the best example I can say is when I first got here, someone was just like, "You're going to turn to other Americans and say, fucking Americans, like you're not one."
Yeah.
And I was like, "You don't understand it now. You soon will." And I do find myself saying that because there'll be times, this has happened multiple times over here with me. I'm in a restaurant eating. There's another American on the other side of the restaurant. For some odd reason, they start blaring their music so loud, I can't even hear the person next to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's rude in America. It's extra rude over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, we don't put up with that here.
A lot of them, especially over here, are not confrontational. I mean, minus Irene. You do something stupid to Irene, she's going to confront you. Other than that, most Japanese people are not most people in Japan are not confrontational, and that's why they kind of. I also think that's why some people do that, because like, well, they're not going to confront me, so.
They haven't seen me.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, minus Irene, who's just.
I'm the most confrontational person in the world.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let Drew and I do a tour of Japan at least one time.
We'll whip all those Americans into shape.
We'll call Irene and you guys, and we'll just.
My son, we have a samurai sword, so yeah, and it has a blade on it, so yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm confrontational, but I've never pulled a samurai sword out on anybody either.
My son has.
He's
Guess it
pulled a
runs
gun
in
on
your
me a couple
family,
times.
Irene.
Though.
He's not confrontational either, but when push comes to shove, he'll do it.
Push comes to shove. I was at the movies today with the kids, and we went to see Despicable Me 4. And there's
Mm-hmm.
these 3 teenage girls sitting behind me talking, and I had to talk myself out of getting into a fight with these 12-year-old girls while we're at Despicable Me 4 because I was like, that
You know
is
what I would have said?
so disrespectful.
I would have done that.
Like, where are your parents right now? It took everything I had not to turn around and be like, weren't you raised better than to be like this?
I get
But
always makes me mad when
Animals.
people do that. I'm like, I'm trying to listen to the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to watch minions fart on each other. Can you please stop talking?
So aside from like all of this ridiculous, how did you? So you guys mentioned that there weren't like a whole lot of podcasts or anything like that about like paranormal or stuff in Japan, but like, how did you guys meet?
Social media. If she was posting about how lonely she feels in a paranormal in Japan, and I'm like, you're not alone. I'm here. It was that bubbly girl in her messages. I'm here. You're not alone.
Well, last time we talked to you, you guys kind of had told us that in Japan, it's kind of really frowned upon to even talk about paranormal stuff or something to that effect. So, is that something that kind of drove you to start the podcast as well? So you had
Yeah,
that
we're
avenue.
hoping. I started on TikTok originally, but then we just started going from me doing the TikToks to this podcast because we're just like, let's try and reach other people out there.
Mhm.
Hopefully, one day, someone out there who feels alone in the paranormal knows that we understand and this is their safe place. That whatever the reason is, whether it's culture or they feel like their family's going to look down on them or they don't want their job to find out, we're there.
Yeah. And we support you.
Yeah, we support you.
It's not so much as being frowned upon. It's just like they know that spirits exist. They just don't want to get it angry so it won't come after them. So they do everything to appease the spirit as possible, as much, so that it won't come after them.
What if the spirit wants interaction and wants to be talked about and spoken about in the masses? Is there anything that could maybe help sway the culture in that instance, or is that something that just doesn't really come up at all?
They don't talk to it. They don't know what to do for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
So
not.
no. So they move out, or they abandon the place that they live in. That's probably haunted, right? And
I mean,
they
to an extent, we have that here too, where people would just leave because they don't want to deal with it.
they just leave, and it's usually a simple reason, right? Or if it's too bad, the land is too bad, then you have to move out. But that's the last resort, right? For us, right? As an investigator, for them, they don't want to deal with it. They just, okay, we're moving. That's it.
So we have we've basically over the last probably 15 or so years have created like this paranormal tourism here in the United States where there are specific places that you have to go and pay, to stay the night or to tour or whatever, but none of that exists in Japan, right?
No.
I that's the first thing I did was look into that because I'm going to go to these places because for some odd reason I assumed it's just like America or the UK where you can book all these investigations. Then you can't, and I'm like, well, that's sad.
They don't want anybody going into any place that's haunted because some of the places here are pretty bad. Like, you could be alive next minute, and the next day you're unalive for some reason. You'd be going to the hospital because you don't know what's wrong with you, and you'd be dead the next day. because you're venturing in areas where you shouldn't be venturing, and certain spirits are not welcoming people to venture in their property, so it becomes a real dangerous situation. And that's why I pick and choose where I want to go, because I want to be alive tomorrow. Okay, I don't want to be dead tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think most of us are with you there.
yeah,
Thank-
so it's just one of those times where you have to pick and choose where you want to go, where you want to um look at, and where you want to enter the doors. And some of the places you really don't want to do that.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty difficult then to like actually get into some of these places, and
It is. I think it's because they don't want to. They do everything they can to not upset the spirits more,
Yeah,
which I
yeah.
kind of get from how many stories I've heard in the US about an investigation team went into a location and end up making it worse because whatever they did
Hmm.
upset the spirit or even added another angry spirit. So people are just
Yeah,
like, yeah, this team came in. Unfortunately, now my house is even worse.
yeah.
In
Yeah.
Japan,
Like,
they're like, we're not even going to risk that.
they don't
and
want
even
seances. They don't want Ouija boards. They don't want anything in the property of the dead. They want
Yeah.
to leave the dead alone, and so not just disrupt their haunting or place where they reside. I
Is that
think.
is that just a culture thing, or is
I
there
was gonna say, could
something more
I
in the
mean like this would
law?
I think this would look, I mean, from a cultural standpoint, and I don't live in Japan, I'm not a Japanese culture expert, but I feel like this is something that like they wouldn't want to be in the media to be like a well-known thing, right?
No.
Because like, look what happened with Jake Paul, right?
Yeah. Suicide
In the
forest.
forest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
many people are angry about that.
Yeah.
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 And it's a place where you see anything that had to do with suicide is very, the spirits are not like, oh shit, there's another earthquake. Shit. Just a second. Hold on. I'll be right here.
You okay,
Yeah,
Irene?
Yeah. My
experiencing an earthquake live on our show right now.
That's happened
okay.
on. That's happened with us before. As we're in a podcast, and Irene's like, "Yeah, there's just an earthquake. It's okay, guys."
Okay, calm down.
We're hitting
Yeah,
touchy subjects.
yeah. Let's not
My
ignore the
seat
fact that
started
just
doing this,
happened
and I
while
go, oh.
Well,
you're
it's
talking
so
about these
she's so
hauntings.
used to it in Japan, and that's also what we tell people because I've seen so many Americans when they heard about the one on January 1st that everyone's like, "Oh, you never hear about earthquakes in Japan." I'm like, they happen yearly. There's at least 1 to 2 dozen at least earthquakes
Mhm.
that they'll experience over there in that little ring of fire area. So like it's nothing new for them. It's just never been in the news. It's only on the news because it's on January 1st. That's basically it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gone. We're good.
I've experienced one earthquake in my life in Pennsylvania, and I was asleep when it happened, so I don't even have a story to tell, other than I
Yeah,
slept through the only earthquake I've ever been in.
I usually go to bed. I usually don't wake up when it happens. I go, yeah, going back to bed. Yeah, I'm not gonna
Even
hold
when
up no further.
even when Irene does wake up during earthquake, she just goes back to bed. She's like, whatever, and goes back to bed. That's how used to it she is. Like, whatever, I'll just see if anything was damaged in the morning.
Oh, I
Yeah.
live in Tokyo, so Tokyo's earthquake alley. Okay, it's the worst place to live for earthquakes, but I bought a nice house. Okay, I like living here. It's nice. It's easy access to everywhere, so
Peanut
I
butter.
gotta live with it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
So
going back to the story, I think like they approach spirits differently. Um, they they don't know what they want, or if this, or if it's something that the spirits want to tell them. They're afraid to find out what it is, so they don't talk to it like I do. I would talk to. I said, okay, what is your problem? What do you want? Like, what are you angry about? Or, what message do you want me to? What message are you trying to say? But to them, they'll say, okay, you got to get out of here. You're not gonna bother me. Yeah, we don't want you here. And it's really sad because usually there's a simple answer to everything, right? And to find out what it is, but they don't want to do that. They said, no, we don't want anything to do with it. We're done. Like, and I said, yeah, but I mean, for me, it's not like that. For me, we want to find out what makes them want to come to here and why they're here, and maybe we can find out a proper solution for this reason, and then maybe cross them over and hope they have a better life where they are from where they are now to later on. And it's so, like they said, no, not going to do that. Why do you do that? Because they deserve an answer and they want an answer. We should give them an answer. But they said, no, no, we don't believe in doing that. I said, okay, fine. So I just don't argue. Don't argue, just move on. And I'm gonna go my way, you're gonna go your way, and yeah.
Well,
It's
on that, go ahead,
I,
DC.
I'm sorry, I was to say just the bill on top of that. Have you two faced? There's a cat. Have you
Or
have you
cat.
have you two faced backlash for anything that you've been doing?
I have. You can't do this because I belong to a really close knit Catholic organ. My friend's Catholic, okay, on Facebook, and I visited him and we went to church together, and he said, "You can't be doing this." I go, "Why?" Because that's not good. That's against the faith. I said, "Why?" Because I'm the chosen one, okay? And chosen people should be using their gifts. And he said, "No, but it's not right." I go, "Okay, fine." I'm still friends with him. I just don't talk to him.
Even like culturally in that.
Here in Japan, though, besides her family, only like 2 people in her life knows what she does for that reason, though.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is just because anytime people do find out what she does, they kind of give her a weird look.
yeah. Like, you
Well,
belong in a cookie place, right? You belong in a cookie hospital for cookie people.
that kind of lends into the next question that I had, and kind of the point that I hope to get around is that considering it's such a like a hot topic culturally,
Taboo.
do you think, yes, taboo? Do you think that there's any type of uh, what am I looking for here? You guys have some of the most rich horror film culture, and it's very steeped in the paranormal and hauntings. Famously, Ringu, right? And I believe
Mm-hmm.
that was based on a real story as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
I think every horror movie from Japan is based off of urban legend.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
so, why do you think it is that there are so many popular horror films that are then based on supposed true stories or legends that are famous worldwide, and it is still such a taboo topic to talk about it in your daily life?
They exist. They acknowledge they exist, right? You appease them, you help them, you make them happy, but you don't interact with them. They're they're afraid of what they don't want them to come after them. That's why. And it's everything is around paranormal. Even the children's comics, we call them manga, it's all paranormal. From from grade 5 and even younger, even grade 3, everyone watches a paranormal comic on Kids Station, which is a children's network, and they watch it and they know about it. And then even as a young junior high student, you read a comic that has to do with paranormal. It's all there. They live with it 364 days out of the year, but they don't want it to hurt them. They think it's going to hurt them. They think it's going to come after them, so they don't. They try not to mess with it.
So
I
just
don't think horror movies is popular over here. I've not seen a horror movie community over here. I don't see any memorabilia or anything sold here. So I don't even think it's popular here. I
Mm-mm.
think it's more. I think those movies are more popular out there.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
The only thing
That's
that's
probably
really
why.
popular in Japan is Godzilla.
Yeah, that's popular here. They actually do think that Godzilla did exist here at one point.
Yeah.
So that Godzilla is actually made off of urban legend.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
do you think there's a tide of change at all with like the younger generations in Japan, or is it still the same?
It's the
Either
opposite.
way.
It's the older people who believe in it. The younger people are more educated. They're more analytical. They if it doesn't come up and pop out at them, if they can't see it with their own eyes and they can't feel it, they don't think it's real.
Okay, interesting.
I
That
think social media also ruined that because now I think because you there are some good and real evidence out there, some good teams out there. I'm not putting down everyone when I say this, but
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people will acknowledge this. There are a lot of people faking evidence for the views and likes
Yeah.
and the
it's
followers. So
95%.
unfortunately
Yeah.
that's what they're mostly seeing over here is the fakers, and some are clearly fake for that. That's also kind of the reason why they less believe it is they're just like, oh yeah, well it's clearly just fake for social media.
Yeah. And plus, they don't want to get canned from their job because they do this.
Yeah, that's something that is still prevalent in America too. One of
Yeah.
my best friends is kind of secretive about his interest in paranormal and cryptozoology and stuff because he
Yeah.
works in the science field and
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't want to be shunned from his career because
No.
he likes
Yeah.
Bigfoot. Yeah, but so that's more relatable in America than you might think. Still,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
not everybody's as loud and proud as people like
Yeah.
me that'll just shout from the rooftops that Sasquatch and aliens are real.
Yeah.
Uh, but so let me ask you this then. So you obviously are American, Amanda, and you
Mhm.
have, moved over to Japan and have these interests. And we had briefly talked about the like the culture in America where it's like tourism based, and that you were surprised that it wasn't like that in Japan. So,
Yeah,
are there any like famous lore, legends, myths, hauntings that you were kind of investigating once you moved over there, or were looking forward to learning more about now that you were in the area by chance?
I was just more interested in. I was so excited about learning the Japanese folklore in general. And that's also why I started the TikTok. Is I started learning about it, so I'm like, let me share, try and educate. And that obviously led to, like I said before, the podcast where because I'd always double check the facts with Irene just to make sure that is this legit here or is this kind of online garbage, just to
Yeah.
kind of verify. Just like I don't want to put anything out there where if someone in Japan saw it, they're like that's not even true. That's why I always check with Japan with Irene to make sure the Japan part was accurate. So we're like, why don't we just start the podcast, have the conversation? We can educate a little bit better, go in a little bit more detail. People can ask us questions. We can try and compare it to something maybe in your guys' lives or something. It just opens up more of that conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's hard for her, because her Google doesn't show up what my Google does. My Google's more Japanese content, so
Hmm.
it starts here and it ends here with hers, and mine starts here and it ends right there with mine. So then I download what I see and I give it to her, and she reads it, and she'll take off of that one.
Is that because you're American? You have like
I think so, which is weird because I don't know if it's because I put like English or whatever. Or they just kind of just I get some of the American stuff. Sometimes I get a mixture, but sometimes I get the American stuff. And the best example I can think of, for some reason, when I was researching the Inugami, which is the dog spirit,
hmm
me and Irene had two different descriptions of how it looked. So I'm like, I don't really know what to say because the American one's like, this is what it looks like. Irene says it looks like this. So I'm like, it's just the dog spirit. Where I know what they both had in common was like the head of a dog, just kind of like a spirit.
hmm
It's gruesome how they were also formed.
I think my phone is only made to be used here in this country, and I can't bring my phone. And I can't live in America. And I can't use it there because I can only use it here in this country.
so it's like manufacturing and not so much internet censorship then.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I don't recall like ever hearing anything about Japan being like super
No, I think
censored online.
outside of like pornography laws, I don't think there's a
Ugh.
lot of censorship.
You want to go to see some really weird stuff? Go to the
Not
7-Eleven
really, no.
store. The magazine area.
No, but you know,
All right, 7-Eleven.
but I think America's to blame for that. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't there like censorship laws created in Japan after the war that were instituted by America that eventually led to some of that weird culture that existed in the Japanese pornography? Though I'm like almost certain that was because of America.
We're broaching an odd topic here.
No.
I think
No.
I think Japan societally, culturally has been conservative
It's supposed to be. You see,
towards
Japan
sex for a long time.
it's a liberal government, right? It's a democratic government, but they have really conservative laws, and it's always been like you're not allowed to bash somebody else's ideas or feelings or thinking. You're allowed to open it and express yourself any way you want to. Nobody's gonna say anything against you. So you're allowed to sell certain comic books in any store. It's just labeled as adults only section in a bookstore, or they have in the 7-Eleven store. They wrap the comics in plastic so you can't open it up, and no kid can read it. If you want to buy it, you can buy it.
Well, you guys have spicier 7-Elevens than we do here. That's for sure.
7-Elevens
So-
over here are just generally better.
Yeah.
I've
got
seen
one
them.
store. If I go up my front door, the store is right there in front of my face. It's that way.
So we have
outside
to
my
have
front
we
door.
have to have the great debate: 7-Eleven or Lawson.
Lawson they closed all of their stores because they opened up too many, and they couldn't take care of it, so they're reporting a loss. So they closed up a lot of their stores. And 7-Eleven has their own bank. They have their own system, so it's a big conglomerate. So they take care of everything, and they own their own supermarket too.
In the private chat there, we don't have to keep harping
not
on
looking
this.
at
But I shared a link in the private chat that was to my point that the Western culture was to blame for some of the censorship and stuff that exists in Japan with the adult content. Is a Western influence from America at the time. But
not really, because I got satellite TV. I don't have cable. You can see a lot of adult content shows on my satellite TV. They don't censor it. You can even see the Playboy channel.
I didn't even know that still existed. That's interesting.
Yeah, they got it in Japan. They got it on satellite TV.
Yeah,
But anyways, let's abandon that topic. It's not normally what we're here for. We'll do a separate. We can do a separate show on that.
Okay.
Right. So I guess one of my favorite Japanese hauntings is the one that inspired Ringu, which is like Down in the Well. Are you guys
Yes,
familiar with that at all?
Yeah.
Yes, I've told this story several times with the I'm assuming you're talking about the ring.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know.
the story
The
that
hipster, I was calling it Ringu.
yeah, the story that started the ring were the ring is obviously they changed it to be more modern. So with how the story behind the ghost story that inspired the ring, it happened at Himaji Castle. The well is still there. You can still take pictures. But they boarded it up so you can't try and go too near it, but you still take photos of it.
Yeah.
But what happened was there was a dish maiden there. She's supposed to be beautiful. Her name was Okiku. And this samurai was so in love with her, and he would always ask her, Okiku to be his lover. She'd always decline. I'm not interested. He kept asking her over and over again. Each time she declined. He finally got impatient one day, and the lord of the castle had 10, I'm going to assume, very expensive decorative plates. He had 10 plates. He hid one. So, of course, who was going to get blamed for it missing? The dish maiden.
Mm-hmm.
So he lets the Lord know, like, oh yeah, I was just kind of casually over here and I noticed there's a plate missing. And the Lord checks and he's not happy at all. So he, obviously Okiku's in trouble for it. She's frantically searching all over the place. She also keeps recounting the plates. Gets a 9, then she's, keeps counting 1 to 9. She's hoping to eventually find his 10th plate. She's not able to.
Mm-hmm.
So the samurai told her, I was like, I'll make you a deal. If you agree to be my lover, I'll convince the Lord it's not your fault. She still said no. He got angry at this, so he abused her. He tied her up. He tied her to something to dunk her in the well. He would dunk her in the well, bring her back up, and he would angrily ask, "Are you going to be my lover now?" She'd still say no. Hit her, threw her back in a well. Kept going on and on, over and over again. Same thing. She still kept saying no until she eventually finally died in that well. And then they say after that at night, you could hear her spirit coming out of the well and walk in the castle, and she'd count to 9. And then after that, you'd hear a blood-shattering scream.
Mm-hmm.
As they said, was if you heard any part of the counting, you became very sick.
Mm-hmm.
If you heard the scream, you somehow mysteriously died soon after.
Mm-hmm.
So that somehow turned into the modern version of the ring. But that's what originally started the idea.
I have to be honest and say that I have not seen all of the Japanese Ringu films, despite the fact there's a box set sitting upstairs. I haven't been through them yet, so I don't know how accurate they are to that lore or not. Certainly, the American films kind of go way, way away from that.
Yeah.
But are there any other, kind of famous
Sadako.
hauntings that come
Sadako
from?
is one of them. Sadako versus Hanako is another one. They're both vengeance. They're both vengeance and
Hanako
very crazy.
is Japanese version of Bloody Mary,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
except she only haunts schools, which to me
Yeah.
would be a nightmare to die and be
Yeah.
haunted in school.
Yeah. And my son's school has one too. It has a well too.
Her son's school also was built. The gymnasium was built on a well too,
Okay.
and it released the spirit from the well, and that haunts that school now.
Yeah.
I'm 1,000% certain that our house has a well in the basement that was covered, and I have not investigated this yet. But I'm pretty sure that I have a spirit in the well situation that I have to work out in my house at some
A lot of
point.
older houses had wells that they just
Yeah.
built over top, and people
Yeah.
find them. Yeah.
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 And the thing is that with my son's school, they put a lid on it and they put prayers on it so that she'd stay in the well and she won't come out. So when the land developer came in and made a school on top of this old farmland, they released her spirit from the well. They opened up the well. They took up the boards. They removed all the prayers that were stuck to the well, and they built the gymnasium. And in the middle of the gymnasium is the well, and she comes out and she haunts the school, which is really stupid. You shouldn't have opened up the well. You shouldn't have removed the boards. You shouldn't have removed the prayers because it would have kept her in the will and she wouldn't have done all this crazy stuff. But yeah, you people who believe and people don't believe, okay? It's a thing. And it's prime property where his school sits on, because in school property you can see Tokyo Tower. And my son took a picture of it, night picture of it. It's really beautiful. His property is such a good area. It's so darn expensive. Like it would be a couple $1,000,000, right? The property alone. And yeah, it's a huge property, but it the people who believe, people who don't believe, people who just want to develop the land to make something out of it, right? That's what happens. That's why you get a lot of hauntings, because they sell the property because they couldn't pay the property tax, or they can't find any use of it, so the owners sell the property and they know darn well it's haunted, and they develop it, and you get crazy stuff happening.
Is there any way once something like that occurs and this spirit is now freed from this well to trap it again or set
You
it
gotta
free?
open up the gymnasium, you gotta open up the well, you gotta put her back, and you gotta close it off. So you gotta actually destroy the gymnasium to do that.
Okay. How would one, so let's say everybody was, in agreement that they're going to do this. How would you get the spirit back into the well to trap it there? Would you have to make it corporeal, or is there like some type of
You'd have to call a
incantation?
Buddhist priest. You'd have to call um uh not a clairvoyant Buddhist priest, a monk, to bring her back and to appease her, or to let her go, release her. One of the two. You'd have to do that, and it takes a lot of effort to bring her back or to remove her from the property. Period. But you see, the soil's like that because she was killed. Okay, her mother threw her down the well because she didn't want her marriage to this guy, and she had a daughter before she got married. So she got to have the daughter out of wedlock. and she killed her daughter, so that the husband says no, it's not his daughter. So she had her out of wedlock. So she thought she'd get in the way. And when he went to war, he never came back, and she died after killing her daughter. And the property went up for sale, and they made a school on top of it. This was done way long time ago, way before the war. That's how old the property is.
Wow.
The properties are so old here, like you don't know the history. I found out just by being a clairvoyant. I found out that way what happened to her.
You almost can't even blame the spirit at that point. Like you totally get why they're vengeful and are the way they are in that scenario. Like when you're murdered and hidden in a well and then trapped in this sarcophagus essentially for all of this time to then finally, as much as it is a terrible way to go, this is also now you're not just a holding cell but your resting place, and now somebody has destroyed it and decided to put a gymnasium over top of it. I kind of
they left her bones in the well. They haven't removed it. If they removed her bones, put her in a proper cemetery, I think she'd be a lot better. But they don't want to touch it. Nobody wants to touch it. That's the sad part about it. It's just what happens, right?
Well, I mean, I guess like that would also kind of you'd have to, in order to do that or to excavate the bones, you'd have to then publicly do the thing that you've said that they don't like to do publicly, and that's address the fact that there's something going on there.
Yeah.
It would then also publicly admit that you have desecrated this area where the body was at to begin with, and destroyed that area while building the school. So there's probably a lot of reasoning behind just ignoring it and not doing anything.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of pushback from doing it right. And anything that's dead, the police department has to be there, because it's a whole lot. It takes a lot of money, right? And would they do it? I don't think so. You'd have to have permission from the government. You have to have blah 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 to do this, do that, and the permission from the school to do this. It's just a whole lot of headache and paper trail to do everything like that. So I don't think they'd be inclined to do that, and I don't think they'll listen to me either and say, "Hey, your school is haunted." But my son would agree that it's haunted. And yeah, he doesn't want to go to the bathroom anymore in the school. So
I think it's one of those situations, if we ignore it, it'll go away.
Yeah.
That's what they probably think.
But it's not going to go away. You know that. I know that. We all know that it's not going to go away. Yeah. So, and a lot of schools in Japan are haunted. So, yeah, the junior high school that my kids went to, it's haunted too, because there's a girl in the music room that does this on the door inside the music room, and he goes, my son said, "Oh, this music room is haunted. Let's go and see it." His teacher said, not going there. Help me. I gotta go to the bathroom. You gotta come with me. He goes, why do I have to assist you to go to the bathroom? Because I'm not gonna go alone. Like, it scared the heck out of them. Like, people are scared.
What I do in that situation is I hand the spirit a drumstick and start one killer metal band.
Yeah. They're just friggin' scared. They don't want it. They acknowledge it's there, but they don't want to see it because they're afraid of it. Okay. It's
unfortunately when there's no one here that knows about the paranormal, they wouldn't know how to handle it.
Yeah. It's just crazy, and a lot of schools are very old too. So yeah, they're probably haunted also.
Majority of
Yeah,
Japan in general is haunted.
yeah, and
Uh,
the land too is
Mhm.
old, and you don't know what was built before that, or you don't know what happened to what was there before that. You don't know what situation happened with that land before that. So it's like you're going catch 22 with everything.
yeah, so we generally we record for about an hour, so we're coming up on the end of our time here. But one thing that I wanted to try to follow up with you guys a little bit, if there's anybody listening that might have an interest in paranormal Japan, are there um, any things we haven't discussed yet that they could maybe Google and do some research or maybe visit? I know, like for me, feudal Japan is always a high area of interest. So I
Hmm.
don't know if there's any like feudal Japan paranormal lore that we could research or anything along those lines. Or we've talked about spirits for this whole time, but UFOs
There's
or aliens, anything like
okay,
that.
yeah. So there's thousands of cryptids here. So I mean, good luck trying to pick one. But there's literally thousands. Unfortunately, as I always say, we don't have any like Bigfoot hunters here trying to research them. So unfortunately, a lot of them, and because me and Irene looked into this, if we did a podcast, just we started to talk about cryptids, and we know there'd be probably several. Just like here's a picture, here's what it said it looks like, here's where it was found. That's the only information that they have on it, because no one wants to go investigate and research it a little bit further. So unfortunately, there's so many that basically either has the description of what it looks like and where it was typically seen. Some might have like a short couple sentences of something more about it, but that's basically it. UFOs, and Irene can tell you, anytime there's an earthquake, especially the bigger ones, that's all of a sudden
Hmm.
when you'll start to see a lot more UFO action. So
Hmm.
I mean, if you believe that maybe aliens or UFOs also stay in the water, that kind of goes with it.
Hmm. Yeah,
Because Irene can
and
tell you when there's a big earthquake, people are not looking down; they're looking up, looking for
yeah,
the UFOs.
yeah, and they always hover above the nuclear power plants. They go near Mount Fuji. They go all over the place in that area, and they don't move. They stay there for a long time, so people can view it and people can take pictures of it. And I belong to one group. It's called Terra UFO, and he's the only person that has a group in Japan that shows pictures of UFOs or videos of UFOs in Japan. He's the only person that will come out and do that. Nobody else does that. I think I invited Amanda too to that group also.
Yeah, I'm in it.
Yeah, so it's just not talked about. And for
Is it for
Bigfoot,
the
as far
same
as
reason?
it's concerned, uh, nobody wants to fund something that's kind of like a hearsay thing. So funding for that project would take a lot of money, and nobody wants to pay billions of dollars to fund finding Bigfoot in Japan either.
I have a lot more of the cryptids in my area than Irene would.
Yeah.
And the only thing scientists are saying is they think the reason is because I live in Nagasaki. So to the right of me is the Nagasaki bombing area. To the north of me is the Hiroshima. So they assume the radiation either mixed with people or animals to create what looked like a cryptid today.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean
Other than that,
that
we're
would
like, we're not going to go look.
I
We're just
mean,
that's our best guess.
still
Which
still
makes
bit
Yeah.
of
sense.
a still bit of a scientific leap though. Where
Yeah.
Yeah. They have a tiki here where um a guy didn't want to he didn't want to have her anymore. He, instead of breaking up with her, he took her to the train tracks, and she got hit by a train, and she died.
You lost your sound, Irene.
She's only this part up, and she became what?
You lost
Can
your
you hear
sound
me
for a
now?
second. Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you now. It's okay.
Okay. She lost her body from this part. She lost her legs, and she walks around taking women out of their homes who live near train tracks. And she's a cryptid too, and she'll take you away and she'll kill you. And she became a cryptid because she was killed.
I heard she's also extremely fast from people.
Yeah. And
Fast without legs. That's a lot of
yeah,
power.
so she has 2 arms, a head,
Yeah,
and half
she
a
kind of
body.
runs on her arms, and I heard it's even though she's only running her arms, from what people say, supposedly it's really fast.
Yeah.
It's pretty terrifying
Like you
imaging,
can't
actually.
outrun this thing if it sees you.
Yeah. You can't run. You can't escape it.
It's a weird deja vu, actually, right now,
Uh,
talking about that
Afterwards,
thing.
I'd look it up for you and I'll send it to you.
All right, yeah, cool. That is definitely one I've not heard of, and I'm very interested in it, especially because I just had this weird moment when you guys were talking about it. So that will probably be how I spend the rest of my night, honestly.
I think what would be
Looking this
really
thing.
interesting.
Call me. Damn. Leave me
I think
alone.
I think would be really interesting for like our viewers, like here on the American side or in Europe, would to be do like we should do a live sometime where we just do like Japanese cryptids because I think they're largely unknown to the West.
Yeah, we would do. Yeah, that's something that I'm always researching too.
Yeah.
So it'd be something we would definitely be able to help with because I research all the time. Irene also kind of helps me with that, especially verifying facts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll do that. We're trying to do some more lives coming up on the other side of July, so we can definitely reach out and schedule something if you're interested in doing one
Yeah,
of those.
definitely. Yeah, her and I have been saying we need to do more shows where we just talk about either the ghost stories or urban legends here.
But we've been so
Yeah,
swamped with work, right? We haven't been able to do it.
Yeah, we start scheduling less together. So
And,
hopefully we'll be able to get to more podcasts where we just talk about more of the
it's
strictly.
a lot of work finding research about certain things because there's not much out there. And the only way you can find research is from hearing older people and hearing what they have to say about it. So, yeah, research, good luck, right?
We don't have a Department of Vital Records here
No.
because we actually had TV shows wanting to come to Japan, and they reached out to us because their research team is not able to find articles or vital records of locations, and I'm just like, you're not finding it because it doesn't exist. They're not hiding it from you; it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I'm like, unfortunately, we don't have more resources either over here because they don't exist. They don't want to keep records of stuff.
Or they had it or they shredded it, one or the other, right?
Yeah. They
Just
never
have to-
made it or they just shredded it because they just don't want.
Yeah.
Just have to have Josh Gates do an episode over there, make a whole bunch of stuff up, and suddenly everybody will be wanting to go to Japan.
Like, we don't have to hate on Josh Gates.
Well, I don't even know if our friend that we always make fun of would go to Japan and try to spin kick any of their ghosts because of how much scarier they are.
They are scarier here. I can say that.
And they don't care if it's night or day. They'll come out.
Energy wise, they also feel different and stronger than they do in America. I can't explain how it feels. I can just be like, it just feels different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's heavier, it's stronger, and they'll attach to you whether you like it or not. They'll come and bother you day or night, like until you tell it to get out of here. They'll just bug the heck out of you.
We just got to get Zach Baggins over there. He'll take care
That's
of all.
it. That's it right there.
No. Sorry, I'm not doing that.
But-
Amanda will tell you, not doing that, not helping him.
Right. Okay, ladies, we're kind of hitting that ending point, so I want to thank
Okay.
you for coming on to the
Thank you for
show.
having us.
And
We had fun.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we let you go, I want you to go ahead. Anything that you have to promote, any links, pages, social medias, anything that you guys have, go ahead and
Definitely
take that time.
check out the Spooky Japan podcast. If you
Yep.
look it up on Facebook, that's our main page where we post anything that's it's more up to date than anything else. We post more pictures about in Japan in general. We also post holiday stuff. Sometimes Irene posts the food that she makes over here too. But we also post like anyone coming up, anytime we're just taking a break, just so we had that on a schedule, so we don't accidentally schedule for something. But that's so up to date. Also look out because we're trying to create more podcasts where it's just me and Irene talking about haunted Japan, either cryptids, urban legend, or ghosts in general. So we will hopefully start doing that here soon too.
Yeah. And coming up next month is the Day of the Dead. So
No, it's not
luckily
coming up
there.
next month, Irene. For you, it's coming up here on the 16th.
Oh
So
yeah.
12 more days from here.
Eek. Yuck. We'll be saying, get out of here, go home, bye-bye.
And anything else to promote before we hit the outro?
Not anything else. You can find any past podcast episodes on
Mhm.
most major streaming too, as well, in case you can't find it or unable to on Facebook. However, you listen to podcasts,
Yeah.
we're there.
We're always here. We do a lot of work behind the scenes and in the scenes.
Yeah.
And there's just so much of it here. There's just pick and choose. What do we do, right?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely can
Well,
relate to that.
I want to say if I ever have the chance to come to Japan, you two will be the first ones to know.
I was
Okay.
gonna say, I'm like, if you come to Japan and Irene sees it on Facebook, she's gonna be extremely mad at you.
We'll bring all the
you
peanut
can come
butter.
and stay with me. You could stay with me and see my
Well,
spooky family.
I'm gonna stay with you because I'm going to the Tokyo Dome for Wrestle Kingdom. But that'll be besides the point. But we'll make it down to Nagasaki too.
Yeah, we'll take you ghost hunting too if you want to.
I'm game.
Yep, sounds like a plan. All right, well, thank you again for joining us,
Thank you so much
everybody.
for having us.
Yep,
Yes, you guys
everybody
are awesome.
listening.
Yeah.
Go check out the podcast. This is not the first time that we've talked to these ladies from Spooky Japan. They're very cool. So support them in any way that you can. Thank you for listening. Don't forget that we have a horror movie that we are working on. If anybody wants to go check out the Indiegogo and help us out on that campaign. And we'll see you next time.
See you next.
Bye-bye.
The preceding program has been brought to you by the Watchers Podcast Network. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends to help grow our network. Check us out on all social media platforms, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, thanks for your support.